Well, that cider brine chicken we just saw looks absolutely delicious from our chef here at Bates. And now happy to continue the tailgating theme as we lead up to the Bates Bowdoin football game from last year, a glorious victory for the Bobcats under the lights at Garcelon Field with the brewmaster and VP of Brewing Operations at Alagash Brewing Company, class of 1997, Jason Perkins, joining us on here to talk about maybe some drinking options for your tailgate. Once we are able to tailgate in person again, some different ways we can pair some great food with some great beer as well. But Jason, just a little bit of your background before we get into some of the discussion here. Just tell me a little about when you were looking for colleges. Take me back. What made Bates end up being the place for you?
Great question. I mean, I like a lot of high school seniors probably didn't know exactly didn't have a great sense of exactly what I needed and wanted, but, I did know that I wanted to be at a small school with a good community. I was interested in playing soccer, which I ended up doing at Bates. I was also really a big fan of Maine. I grew up in Vermont, but I spent a lot of time in Maine as a kid, both on the coast and inland, and really, really enjoyed spending time there. So, but really Bates was on my radar, and then I did a visit there before applying, and just fell in love with the campus, fell in love with the people and the community on campus. And that's really what sealed it for me.
And you're also a former coach for 1 year, right? After you graduated, you played men's soccer for 4 seasons and then coached, right?
Yeah, I was, I'd come back from my wife, or girlfriend at the time, Julie Draper, also class of 97. And I would spend a year out in Montana right after we graduated from Bates. And then we moved back to Maine, really wanted to be back in the state that we loved. And I still kept in touch with George Pergavi, who was the coach for many, many years. And he had an opening as an assistant. So I took the opportunity to coach. I knew I wanted to coach in my post-college years. And so I gave it a go. In the end, I ended up just coaching my daughters mostly. No serious coaching anymore, but it was a fun year, a good year to coach even some of the players I had played with as well.
Excellent. So now, how did you first become interested in brewing? Because you've been doing this for a while, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically since I left Bates. So 21 years at Alagash, and about a year before that at a couple small breweries, Gritty McDuff's and Freeport included. There's a number of things. I grew up on a small farm in Vermont, and where we really were connected to a lot of the food we had. We had a big garden, we had animals, and so that connection to the land, that connection to making things, was always kind of part of my upbringing. Of course, I love beer, so that helped. But I kind of got into home brewing towards the end of college and right after college, and really kind of experienced that kind of craft of making something, much like cooking in a kitchen, and just kind of fell in love with it. And I was once again in Montana with Julie, and just working honestly odd jobs, waiting tables and the like. And I got to know a small brewery out there, and I started working there for a day or two, and within a day or two just kind of fell in love with the business. And that kind of combination of science and art and hands-on making, creating something is really made me fall in love with it right away.
All right, so now let's say we're tailgating for a game. Let's say we're eating those cider brine chicken wings with potato salad and coleslaw. What's a good beer to pair with that? Because we just saw our great chef there in Commons making that. And then what would you recommendations for a pairing there, perhaps, from a drinking
Sure, yeah, and there's a couple options. I'll start with, hopefully you can see my enormous mug with the virtual background. Oh, maybe a little bit.
Move it back a little further, maybe, from the screen.
Oh, you get the idea.
There it is. Yep, got it.
This big thing, hold on.
Yep. Oh.
It's filled with Alagash White, which is our flagship here. And it's a great beer for lots of food options, very versatile on the food side of things. A lot of complex flavors involved there, but it's also relatively dry, so not a lot of residual sugar. It's spiced with coriander and orange peel, so there's some citrus notes to it as well that would pair really nicely with kind of the cider notes of the wings. But I'll just say generally, tailgating, not everybody, but you kind of think maybe you're going to have maybe more than one beer. So something that's, lower in alcohol, something that's drier. So when I say drier, I mean not a lot of residual sugar in the beer. So still flavorful, of course, something that, isn't just a mass-produced lager, something with flavor, but something that's dry and, helps. You're likely going to also be full because you're probably going to eat a lot of those wings, I would imagine.
Right.
So having something that you can comfortably have more than one and not have it be too overfilling.
You touched on Alagash White. I got some myself the other day there at the local supermarket here. Got to support the local breweries, of course, especially one run by a Bates alum. But what makes Alagash White in particular, such a special beer in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a beer I think that appeals to a wide range of people. If you're what we kind of call in the craft beer industry a beer geek, so someone who's like really into styles and history, and maybe about a lot about a whole range of styles, this is the kind of beer that will appeal to you because it is a very historical style. It's been around for a couple centuries and originated in Belgium. Very layered in its flavor, so there's no one flavor that dominates, but there's a lot of flavors involved. But on the other end of the spectrum, we often talk to a lot of people who the only beer they drink is Alagash White. And I think it tends to appeal to people who maybe aren't as much beer drinkers as well. It's not overly bitter. It's not overly strong. All those flavors of, wheat and citrus and yeast and all those things are really all layered together and make it a little bit easier to drink across the board.
Excellent. Why do you think there's such a connection between, beer and sports? It's kind of an interesting combination because, if you're an athlete, you maybe want to not drink too much beer, a lot of calories. It's a good connection, right, between beer and sports?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's probably lies in the kind of celebratory nature of sports. Watching, of course, as a fan and all the fans who follow various sports at various levels is, there's just something celebratory about watching a game with your friends, and there's something communal about it. And there's something just inherently communal about beer and, of course, celebratory about beer. So I think that's really where it stems from.
Great. And then from Alagash Brewing's perspective, I mean, you've been there for a number of years now. What makes that place, special to you in terms of the growth it's had over the past few decades?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that, I feel really fortunate on the one hand, like I get to make beer for a living. I mean, that's wonderful. I can't complain about that. And I mentioned earlier kind of the combination of kind of art, creativity, and science really overlap really well within the beer industry. And it's just a great community to be a part of. So, that part has always kept me coming back. But beyond that, beyond the, being proud of the beer we make here, I'm just almost more proud of the staff and the culture we've created here and the way we've supported our community, both locally here in Portland, but out throughout the state and throughout the country as we've grown, and, really going beyond just making beer to make a profit. I mean, we really look at making beer to be a force for good in a lot of other ways. And so, I find myself being much more, I would almost even say, proud of the stuff we do outside of simply making beer that make me just really proud to continue to work for this company.
Great. What's maybe your favorite? What's your tailgating approach when you go tailgating in terms of the best practices for enjoying some beers and some food as well? I mean, what's your favorite way to watch the kind of the big game, right? Prepare for and everything. What's your game day plan normally?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier the kind of characteristic in the beer itself of being
right.
dry. And sometimes actually a little bit of slight acidity in the beer can help as well. A lot of times in your tailgate, you might be eating some fatty foods, of course. That's often what we're reaching for. So having something dry and a little bit of acidity there can help kind of cut that as well. So I don't, nothing too crazy. Just, I think those wings in that previous video are perfect for afternoon and getting ready to watch some sports.
Great. Excellent. Well, anything else you wanted to mention about, maybe Alagash or your time at Bates, even we haven't gotten to talk about here?
Yeah. I mean, I'd just say that, Bates is a wonderful experience and, still to this day, some of my closest friends, very closest friends are people I spent time with at Bates, and I still feel very connected to them. And so more than anything, that's really what I felt I got out of Bates was just lifelong friends that, are irreplaceable. So.
Absolutely. And hopefully all of the lifelong friends from around the country will enjoy the Bates Bowdoin football game we have coming up here. I will be back shortly with a panel of head coach Malik Hall and a few of the players involved in that big victory last year under the lights. Hope you enjoy it. Jason Perkins, Brewmaster, VP Brewing of Operations, Alagash Brewing Company, class of 97. Thank you so much for joining us and talking about some good options for the tailgating scene whenever that does return in real life. Thanks again.
You bet.